HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Power of Black Excellence, HBCUs and the Fight for American Democracy by Deondra Rose, read by L. Malaika Cooper. Introduction: HBCUs and the Politics of Black Education. In the immediate aftermath of the 2020 election, as news outlets began to announce Joe Biden's victory over incumbent President Donald Trump, the significant role that higher education, and particularly historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, had played during the intense election became a trending topic. On November 7, 2020, Duke University computer science professor Dr. Nikki Washington, at Dr._Nikki W., tweeted a list of HBCU graduates whose support was critical to Biden's campaign. A FAMU grad, at Keisha Bottoms, endorsed Biden in 19. A SCSU grad, at Whip Clyburn, saved him in SC. A Spelman grad, at Stacey Abrams, galvanized votes in ATL/GA to flip the state blue. Now, a Howard grad, at Kamala Harris, will be VP. The lesson: stop sleeping on #HBCUs, #Black History. Washington's Post acknowledged the important role that endorsements from Florida A&M University alumna and Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and South Carolina State University alumnus Representative James Clyburn, Democrat, South Carolina, Spelman College alumna Stacey Abrams, voter mobilization efforts, and Howard University alumna Kamala Harris's role as his running mate had played in securing Joe Biden's victory. The next day, Travis Stroud, at Golfer Swimmer, a North Carolina middle school educator, similarly underscored the role that black HBCU alumni in particular played in the 2020 election by sharing a post from an Instagram account known as @Official Cocoa Diaries. The post highlighted the work of Stacey Abrams, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and Kamala Harris, proclaiming that a black woman from Spelman helped get out the vote in a city run by a black woman from FAMU to push a ticket with a black woman from Howard over the top. Thank you, black women, and thank you, HBCUs. The comments that Stroud, Washington, and others shared on Twitter after the election accurately point to the important impact of HBCU graduates on the 2020 election. However, it is important to note that HBCUs and their graduates have long played a central role in shaping the American political landscape. As many scholars have noted, since their inception in the 1800s, HBCUs, which the 1965 Higher Education Act defined as any college or university that was established prior to 1964, whose principal mission was and is the education of Black Americans, have provided Black Americans with access to knowledge, skills, and opportunities needed to drive socioeconomic progress and democratic citizenship. The first college and universities dedicated to providing Black Americans with access to higher education emerged during the mid-19th century. The 1837 founding of Pennsylvania's Institute for Colored Youth, later known as Cheyney University, marked the birth of Black colleges in the United States. From that year through 1964, Black clergymen and military veterans, philanthropists, and federal and state lawmakers established 138 colleges and universities that provided higher educational opportunity to Black students whose post-secondary learning opportunities were restricted by Jim Crow and racial segregation. Prior to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Southern colleges and universities routinely barred Black students from admission, while many Northern institutions invoked quotas to limit the number of Black students who would gain entry. A full 90% of HBCUs are located in the South, and 75% of them were established during a post-Civil War Reconstruction era college boom between 1865 and 1899. Racism and widespread institutional discrimination, however, continued to severely limit Black Americans' access to education well into the 20th century. In the face of that discrimination, Black colleges took on a powerful social role, providing generations of citizens with one of the few reliable pathways to personal and familial advancement. As the number of colleges and universities supporting Black Americans' access to higher education grew in the 19th and 20th centuries, they also provided crucial support for collective advancement. They provided valuable resources for Black communities, including networks of educational and professional opportunity, access to cultural programming, guest speakers, and conversations that highlighted Black excellence and grappled with complex questions regarding race, citizenship, and justice, and hubs for community service and civic engagement. In their history of developing unique and transformative educational cultures that celebrated and cultivated Black excellence, HBCUs have long embodied the kind of disruptive educational approach that Derek Bell, a pioneering scholar of critical race theory, describes as necessary for revolutionizing a culture. Beginning in the 19th century, Black colleges and the intellectuals who built their careers in them engaged in the kind of scholarly resistance to racism and radical assessment of American society that were the first steps towards boldly disrupting the system of racial stratification that had relegated Black people to the bottom tiers of society. As education scholars Gloria Ladson Billings and William F. Tate note, scholars like Carter G. Woodson and W.E.B. Du Bois, who were both products of and faculty ensconced in HBCUs, contested received notions of Black inferiority and worked to establish the study of race, including the study of African Americans, as a respected area of intellectual inquiry. Black colleges were essential institutional structures that made scholarly resistance to racism possible. In doing so, HBCUs also fostered the development of figures who would assume positions at the vanguard of the civil rights movement, including the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., Rosa Parks, and Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. As Black colleges expanded, they served as a home to tens of thousands of Black student activists who would go on to participate on the front lines of demonstrations driving the movement for desegregation and civil rights. In addition to cultivating leaders who would help to change the meaning of citizenship and civil rights in the United States, HBCUs have played a key role in providing protected spaces for Black citizens when the nation's governing institutions have fallen short of their responsibility to provide equal protection to all. During racial segregation, for example, HBCUs provided Black students with a respite from the harsh reality of racial apartheid that existed outside of the college grounds. In his book, Shelter in a Time of Storm, historian Jelani M. Favors offers powerful insight into how HBCUs offered a refuge from Jim Crow oppression and fostered Black political activism during the mid-20th century. On-campus dining, residence halls, shopping, entertainment, and security made it unnecessary for Black college students to venture into often hostile surrounding areas for the necessities of life. Instead of having to occupy balcony seating at local movie theaters, students could watch movies or theater performances on campus. In this way, HBCUs have served as a valuable substitute for the state, protecting and empowering some of the nation's most vulnerable populations as they seek the citizenship-enhancing knowledge and skills that typically accompany higher education. By providing social spaces that were not only safe but empowering, HBCUs generated critical resources that supported the political agency of emerging citizens and future leaders. In addition to expanding people's economic and professional opportunities, educational attainment is a central determinant of political engagement. Those with more education are significantly more likely to engage in activities like voting, contacting elected officials, contributing money to a political candidate, and protesting. Not only are they more likely to be invited to participate in such activities by political parties, organizations, and candidates, but they are also significantly more likely to seek and hold political office. Although scholars have recognized the significance of HBCUs for providing Black Americans with valuable higher education opportunity, political scientists have yet to consider the vital role that HBCUs have played in American political development, their unique impact on the discourse around rights and citizenship, and their work to promote democratic inclusion for Black Americans. But as this book explains, HBCUs have been essential for empowering Black citizens and helping to reshape the distribution of political power in the United States. Drawing on over 6 years of archival, qualitative, interview, and statistical research, this book brings into view the historic impact that HBCUs have had on the American political landscape and the friend/foe relationship that government has had with them since their inception. It highlights how a changing political landscape in which Black Americans exerted unprecedented political influence, both as voters and as elected officials during the late 19th century, figured prominently in the development of policy changes that strengthened and supported HBCUs. Moreover, it underscores how HBCUs have acted as uniquely powerful incubators of democratic citizenship, playing a pivotal role in driving the movement for Black civil rights and cultivating the development of leaders who would play a central role in the long fight against injustice and for an inclusive, multiracial American democracy. HBCUs have educated a stunningly high percentage of Black political elites. For example, a full 40% of Black members of Congress were educated at HBCUs, as were 50% of Black lawyers and a whopping 80% of Black judges. Rejecting a view of education as narrowly aimed at the production of workers, HBCUs historically have been committed to the holistic development and empowerment of citizens, which has had important implications for American democracy. Taking this approach to education, HBCUs have fostered the development of highly engaged citizens through a unique combination of academic programming, politically relevant co-curricular and extracurricular activities, distinct campus cultures that are particularly shaped by their faculty, and a strong commitment to community service. By bringing into view the impetus for and impact of HBCUs' work, this book challenges the conventional wisdom that, prior to the late 20th century, the federal government took a laissez-faire approach to education. As this study demonstrates, the emergence and early development of Black colleges during the 19th century occurred as a direct response to government interventions that necessitated a unique approach to Black education and empowerment. In the United States, education policy is frequently understood to be determined by local and state governments. But the history of Black higher education in the United States shows that this understanding is insufficient and that it is important to expand what we think of as education policy. Indeed, the history of Black higher education points to unique ways that education and democracy are closely intertwined, underscoring how higher educational institutions can be crucial partners in democracy work. Policymakers can promote democracy by supporting HBCUs and their unique approach to post-secondary education and empowerment that includes transmitting politically relevant knowledge, helping to build politically relevant skills, promoting political efficacy, and fostering a commitment to civic engagement. Because of the empowering educational experience that HBCUs provide, public policies that have supported them, for instance, the Morrill Land Grants Act of 1862 and 1890, and indirect support via financial aid programs like Pell Grants and federal student loans, have yielded important policy feedback effects that have helped to alter the racial dynamics of political power in the United States. Drawing on the knowledge and skills gained in Black colleges, HBCU graduates have reshaped the contours of American social, economic, and political life. These institutions have offered a space where Black intellectuals were empowered to think critically about race and citizenship, and to grapple with the hypocrisies of a national creed that propounded values like equality, freedom, and meritocracy, while society was rife with segregation, discrimination, and white supremacy. The political impact of HBCUs is particularly salient in the context of the civil rights movement of the mid-20th century, one of the most transformative moments in U.S. political history. By empowering Black Americans to inhabit their roles as citizens, HBCUs played a fundamental role in setting the stage for the civil rights movement, producing many of its leaders. These leaders, in turn, would help to set a new agenda for government and public policy. Moreover, HBCUs have provided many Black Americans with a valuable resource: higher education attainment derived from an empowering institutional setting that significantly increases the probability that they will engage in politics. Arguably, no other institutions in the history of the United States have made the same investment in developing Black American citizens. This book draws on extensive archival research, interviews with Black HBCU and predominantly white institution, PWI, graduates, and survey data to examine the distinctive higher educational experience that HBCUs have provided, and to better understand how such experiences have helped foster the development of citizens who are highly engaged in politics. Evidence suggests that a unique combination of academic programming, politically relevant co-curricular and extracurricular activities, distinct campus cultures, commitment to community service, and distinctive town/gown relations are central to the HBCU experience and contribute to their impact on the democratic landscape. This book also looks at the way that federal policymakers have acted as both friends and foes of HBCUs, shaping their creation and operation in ways that have contributed to important feedback effects for the distribution of political power in the United States. Ultimately, as this book documents, HBCUs, shaped by direct and indirect government interventions since the end of the Civil War, and with their unique approach to promoting strong political and civic engagement, have directly influenced the structure, discourse, and trajectory of American democracy. Opening doors for Black Americans through higher education. HBCUs have served as powerful mechanisms for increasing educational attainment and building human capital since their founding. The close association between educational attainment and indicators of social, economic, and political empowerment are well known. In addition to providing access to knowledge and skills that open doors to more prestigious occupations, higher income, and rich social networks, earning a college degree significantly increases the probability that people will engage in political and civic activities. For nearly 2 centuries, HBCUs have provided Black Americans, a population whose pursuit of educational opportunity in the United States has otherwise been met by exclusion, discrimination, and even violence, with one of the most reliable pathways to higher educational opportunity. They worked to counteract a long history of racial stratification in education, from legally sanctioned illiteracy for enslaved people to school segregation during the Jim Crow era, to discriminatory admissions policies and unequal access to higher quality education at the elementary and secondary levels. Today, HBCUs have a robust place in the landscape of American education. In 2020, there were 101 HBCUs operating in the United States, serving 327,000 students in institutions located in 19 states, Washington, D.C., and the Virgin Islands. Alabama boasts the largest number of HBCUs, with 14 operating in the state, while North Carolina is the state with the largest number of undergraduate students enrolled in HBCUs. 51% of HBCUs are public, 49% are private, and they include both 4-year and 2-year institutions. During the 2018-2019 academic year, HBCUs enrolled approximately 9% of Black college students in the United States and nearly 2% of all U.S. college students. They also conferred more than 48,000 degrees, 11% of which were associate's degrees, 68% were bachelor's degrees, 15% were master's degrees, and 5% were doctoral degrees. In 2019, HBCUs awarded 13% of the bachelor's degrees, 6% of master's degrees, and 10% of doctoral degrees conferred to Black students. While HBCUs award degrees in the full range of academic areas, their impact for diversifying STEM fields is particularly impressive. A full 25% of Black Americans who graduate with degrees in STEM fields are HBCU alumni. A powerful example of the impact HBCUs have on the educational landscape is the role that they are playing in helping to address the decline in Black teachers that the United States has seen in recent decades. In 1971, 8.1% of teachers in U.S. public schools were Black. By 1986, that share had dropped to 6.9%, and in 2019, the share of Black teachers in public schools had declined to 6.7%. This decline has important implications for the nation's progress toward becoming a truly multiracial democracy, as research has shown that Black students who have at least one Black teacher are more likely to graduate from high school and are less likely to be expelled. Persisting to graduation and avoiding expulsion are 2 factors that promote higher overall levels of educational attainment, which is positively associated with participation in political and civic activities. In recent years, HBCUs and the federal government have launched initiatives demonstrating intentional effort to increase the number of Black teachers in schools. At the institutional level, HBCUs like Bowie State University have developed education programs that offer valuable curricular opportunities, such as student-teacher programs that help prepare their students for teaching careers. State governments have also worked to increase the number of Black teachers by offering special programs. During the 1980s, for example, North Carolina established the NC Teaching Fellows Program, which provided funding to help thousands of aspiring educators hone their skills in certain colleges and universities throughout the state. North Carolina A&T, an HBCU, was included in the original set of schools where teaching fellows could use their funds. In recent years, volatile state politics has played an important role in both promoting and undermining such state-level efforts, as shifts in party control of the legislature have prompted expansions and contractions of state support. In addition to the work that individual HBCUs and states are doing to address the decline of Black teachers, the federal government is also working to reverse the trend. In 2023, the U.S. Department of Education announced the availability of $18 million in grants for HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, MSIs, highlighting the important role they play in helping build a diverse teaching force. As these examples illustrate, HBCUs and government actors are thinking seriously about how HBCUs can continue their legacy of producing Black teachers and, in doing so, how they can help address the nation's shortage of Black teachers. As HBCUs have continued to make valuable contributions to the educational landscape, they have also undergone a variety of change over time. For example, they have seen changes in the composition of their student bodies. Before 1964, HBCUs educated a supermajority of Black college students in the United States, as many as 90% by some estimations. After the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the end of legal racial segregation, the proportion of Black college students attending historically Black colleges declined, dipping to 17% of Black college students in 1980, 13% in 2000, and 9% in 2015. While HBCUs were founded with the central purpose of providing Black Americans with post-secondary educational opportunity, they nevertheless pioneered egalitarian admissions policies that extended admissions to applicants without regard to race, national origin, gender, and other identity factors frequently restricted by historically white colleges and universities. They have also helped promote education for Black women, and in 2019, a full 63% of students enrolled in HBCUs were women, compared to 53% in 1976. While the percentage of non-Black students enrolled in HBCUs have grown in recent years, in 2019, non-Black students represented 24% of HBCU students, up from 15% in 1976. HBCUs continue to serve a powerful and well-established role for the educational advancement of Black Americans today. This is particularly true in a higher educational landscape where the failure to guarantee Black and brown students equitable access to public flagship colleges and universities has placed even greater strain on HBCU resources. In June 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court outlawed the use of race-based affirmative action in college admissions, overturning nearly a half-century of legal precedent established by Regents of University of California v. Bakke, 1978, Grutter v. Bollinger, 2003, and Fisher v. University of Texas, 2016, which held that colleges and universities were justified in considering race in admissions decisions because colleges and universities have a vital interest in building diverse student bodies. Such diversity was intended to help rectify the historical discrimination against racial and ethnic minorities that has led to their underrepresentation in various professions and in positions of leadership in society. This dramatic policy change will have important implications for the higher educational landscape and for HBCUs in particular.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?